Welcome to the Car Guys, and Ferrari has just announced the brand new Roma Spider, the chop-topped version of its elegant 2 Plus, the Roma. And that means it's curtains for the Portofino, which shuffles off this mortal coil and joins the Choir Invisibile after 5 years. Even a mid-range refresh to M status couldn't save that one. Since you, like me, are discerning car enthusiasts, collectors and owners, and the arrival of a new Ferrari is doubtless something you are interested in, this week I thought we could look at this car in detail. So what's the all-new Roma Spider all about? What's different? What's the same? And as one of Ferrari's biggest devotees, how do I feel about it? And also, just a few days after the worldwide launch, why does no one seem to be talking about it? And you know me, I'm going to be approaching this from the perspective of a passionate Ferrari owner who wants to understand where this model fits into the range and whether it's something to consider for the garage in the future. I know that you may be used to wall-to-wall positive, uncritical media coverage, but I'm going to be completely honest about what I like and don't like from what I've seen so far, which I know you'll appreciate. In other words, it's another episode of The Car Guys. Now, full disclosure, the entry-level front-engined V8 Ferrari has rarely quickened my pulse. Doesn't matter if it was called California or Portofino, to be frank, it wasn't me. It always seemed to be more feminine, more restrained, a declawed Ferrari, which was perfectly fine for certain people, and those people tended to be wives and girlfriends and those who have never owned a Ferrari before. My fears were confirmed when the Portofino arrived in 2017 and it didn't even have a race setting on the Manettino, the traditional hairy-chested driving mode that makes all Ferraris come alive. And when I got to drive one, I was underwhelmed. It's a lovely car, don't get me wrong, but it's not the sort of thing that we at the Car Guys would lust after. And I think it's a Ferrari designed for a certain demographic, which definitely isn't us. See what I mean?
But I have to say, not one for us.
I didn't like the way it looked. It felt numb, heavy, cumbersome, and completely failed to excite me. Which is fine if you're a Vauxhall, less so if you're a Ferrari. And actually, my comments on the Portofino got some of you pretty angry until I pointed out that it's okay to have an opinion and express it. The 2+2 California first appeared in 2008, and it was actually a pretty little roadster with a stylish bonnet scoop, 4.3 litre V8 front-mounted engine, a cheery grille, historic side slats, and of course, a folding metal hardtop. 4 years later, the refreshed California 30 arrived, which meant 30 kilos less weight and the addition of 30 more horsepowers. And not much else. Which meant the turbocharged California T was needed just 2 years later in 2014 to reinvigorate the model and stimulate consumer interest with a more powerful 3.9 litre V8 pumping out 552 brake horsepower. Gone were the retro side vents in favour of a bold sweep from the front wheel and no bonnet scoop. That's how you can tell them apart quickly. And actually, the Cali T, as it's playfully known, was a pretty cool car, and I almost bought one. And then in 2018, the Portofino arrived, which boasted a 592 brake horsepower twin-turbo flat-plane V8, followed in 2021 by the Modificata M version, which upped the power to 612 brake horsepower. In March 2023, Ferrari announced the Portofino M had ceased production, and no one cried. But now we have the Roma Spider, and boy, is it not what I expected. Well, for a start, I hadn't even expected a Spider version of the Roma because Ferrari already had the Portofino, and I clearly hadn't been paying attention. Now, of course, it makes sense because the Fino had such a dated architecture and interior that it really couldn't compete anymore. And that was reflected in the sales that were dropping fast. So actually, Ferrari, the Roma Spider makes perfect sense as a replacement rather than investing in a whole new convertible model line. But, and I don't think I'm alone in this, I kind of wish that the Roma remained as a standalone cool thing. It is so different from the rest of the range, more restrained and less showy. There's no getting away from it. The Roma Spider has a fabric roof.
Not a great plan.
I was not expecting that. The retractable hardtop has been such a common fixture for all Ferrari Spiders for so long that it's weird to see anything else. But here it is, all bendy and foldy and soft. And because I like to indulge in history, I can tell you that this is the first time a front-engined Ferrari has a soft top since this 365 GTS 4. That isn't particularly interesting, of course, so I'll balance it with the fact that the last fabric-roofed Ferrari of any kind was the Scuderia Spider 16M in 2008. The new roof takes 13.5 seconds to close, and a crucial reason why Ferrari opted for it is because of the diminutive proportions of the Roma. A folding hardtop would have taken up too much boot space, whereas this new solution leaves plenty of luggage room for the Roma's grand touring credentials. Don't forget though, this is a 2+, not a 2+2, which is Ferrari's polite way of saying that no human can fit in the rear seats. And like the hardtop, you can open and close it whilst it's moving up to 37 miles an hour, which if you live in a country famous for frequent unexpected downpours, is a good thing. But there's no getting away from it, a fabric roof feels like a backward step when you're so used to the structural integrity, security and weather resistance of a full hard top. Ferrari says the soft top is a novel and modern take that underlines the Roma Spider's exuberant character.
Right.
Also new is the wind deflector that is integrated into the rear seats. Press a button on the central tunnel and the backrests of the rear seats will rotate into position to reduce wind buffeting. Ferrari also claims that it's upgraded the oil pump to increase pressure from a cold start by 70% and to help reduce engine wear and warm up the car more quickly. And the publication of that fact shows that there perhaps isn't that much to say about this new car. You still get that snarling monster of a twin-turbo V8 that bestowed the Roma with a muscle car-like driving experience. It's a 3.9-litre power plant that generates 611 brake horsepower and gives you 80% of the torque at just 1900 RPM. Peak torque is 560 pounds-feet, which is 760 Newton meters, and that's enough to deliver a 0-60 time of 3.4 seconds and a top speed of 199 miles an hour. You also get the same 8-speed gearbox from the SF90. And the state-of-the-art interior and technology is the same, which sadly means an overabundance of frustrating haptic feedback buttons on the steering wheel and a tacked-on central tablet with enough fiddly touchscreen features to make even the simplest of tasks just about impossible. Often the Ferrari Spider is hands down more desirable than the coupe, with a healthy dollop of pure show-off. I remember getting lots of stick on YouTube for having the 355 Spider instead of the GTB, but I still maintain that roof down, it's one of the prettiest Ferraris ever made. But what do you think? The Roma Spider though? I'm not so sure. The exterior design is less appealing than the coupe in my opinion, and the chopped top and lower windscreen height gives it too high a side profile, even with the side skirts painted in a dark colour to help hide the girth. The loss of the roof also highlights how ungainly the rear actually is when you don't have the swooping roofline to disguise it. And the Spider gains an extra bulge where the roof fits into the rear to retain as much luggage space as possible. To me this looks more like a Maserati or an Aston or even a Jaguar, but most definitely not a Ferrari. And that black spoiler section combined with the fabric roof makes it look a little bit too much like a 911 cab. But I will admit that I've not seen the car in the flesh and I was not at the launch event in Marrakesh. Perhaps those of you that were can leave your thoughts in the comments. And I will admit that cars often look completely different in the flesh when you're able to walk around them and sit in them. Well, partly it's because it's only just been announced and everyone is waiting to see one moving and in the hands of their favourite road testers. But also because it's not that big of an announcement and, dare I say it, a little bit Underwhelming? In fact, I asked the Car Guys viewers, many of whom are car collectors and Ferrari aficionados, what they thought of the car, and here are some of their responses. Jaguar. Better as a coupe. It loses some of the coherence that the hardtop gives it. Something about the proportions doesn't feel right. If the interior was without the stupid buttons, it'd be a no-brainer. I thought it would be prettier, and that rear three-quarter angle isn't great. There's too much of a hump. Disappointing. Pointless back seats unless you've got a baby with no legs. The back is too high, the soft top ruins it, the black spoiler is ugly. And perhaps most unkindly, glorified F-Type. But to be fair, as savage as the Car Guys viewers were, there were some bright spots in the comments. The Roma as it should be. The design lines are sublime. I think it's stunning. It looks better than the coupe. 9 out of 10. And elegant. Let's face it, the Roma is a pretty car, but it didn't set the world afire. And all that talk of Dolce Vita is now, well, it's just annoying. The Roma is the thinking man's Ferrari. One who doesn't like to shout about it. It's not a Ferrari you aspire to own or dream about. It's not a poster car, and it's unlikely to be the only Ferrari you would own. And the Roma Spider is that squared. I have to admit that a year or so after it was launched, I've come around to the Roma in the right colour. But I'm afraid the Roma Spider is a bit too prissy and un-Ferrari-like. I'll reserve my judgment, of course, until I can actually sit in one or even drive it. But my first impressions are that it's not for me, and I suspect that that suits Ferrari just fine. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode where I was talking about my reaction and thoughts on the newly launched Ferrari Roma Spider. If you like what we're doing on the Car Guys, please subscribe, leave comments and likes, and there'll be another episode next week.